Hi, I'm Carrie, and today I'm going to be looking at the graphic user interface of Uber Eats and Minilog. For my analysis, I compared two of Australia's top downloaded platform-to-consumer delivery apps and analysed the user experience through a series of tasks in which I encountered the most pain points in my initial analysis. The tasks being selecting a series of items and setting preferences. The user journey for selecting items is one in which I assume will be one full of frustration for the users. Once I actually started browsing the menu, I had realized there were no photos and the menu layout wasn't clearly organized. After finding an item I liked, I wanted to make adjustments as there was an ingredient in which I was allergic to. However, I was frustrated as I found out there was no space for me to request adjustments to be made to my dish. Only a prompt saying to contact the restaurant. In proceeding with the order and having accidentally ordered too much food, I encountered a major issue of not being able to remove items. After a few frustrating minutes, I was able to remove the items, but was overall dissatisfied with the amount of time and effort it took. When it came to preferences, there was a confusion at the beginning with the slightly confusing positioning of the restaurant search button next to where you would input your address. The experience, however, with the other processes of setting delivery preferences were generally more consistent and positive feeling. Based on my assumptions that were made from my personal use of the apps, I assume that once users are able to overcome the initial confusion in the beginning, they will have an overall content experience when it comes to setting preferences. For my observation, I had specifically created tasks surrounding some of the frustrations to gauge the understanding of the user's food selection process and to validate or disprove some of the pain points identified in the user journeys from testing the apps myself. In order to gain insight across a range of users, I observed two different users from different age groups and familiarities. The first user, Gordon, is a 23-year-old student and part-time sales assistant who is adventurous when it comes to food, however avoids cooking at all costs in that he doesn't want to potentially risk burning down the house by doing so. Because of this, he's familiar with food delivery apps like Uber Eats. However, as noted, he has never used Menulog before. So, when it came to his experiences undertaking the tasks in Uber Eats, he had an overall very positive experience, with some successes being the visual menu and the ability to customize and request specific adjustments to individual items. Also, most notably, the pop-up banners and the filters specifically for promotions and deals, in which for a student who's motivated to save money, it is a very highly appreciated element. And as expected, he encountered major frustrations in being unable to remove items from the order. His experience with Menulog had similar successes in Uber Eats, as he was able to easily remove items from the checkout. However, he did have some major frustrations with Menulog, the first being the lack of photos in the menu, and the second being that the flow and layout of the app was drastically different to other food delivery apps, in which caused him to repeatedly make mistakes as things weren't where he commonly expected them to be. The second user was a 48-year-old mum, Helen, who, as the head chef of the household, wanted to feed her family of 4 healthy meals. She has no previous experience with food delivery apps and usually opts to call and order directly from the restaurant, as certain members of the family have dietary requirements. In her experience with using both apps, as a first-time user, she found Uber Eats to be fairly intuitive and easy to select items. She shared similar successes to user 1 in that the customizations and visuals of menu were helpful in terms of guidance of usage. However, she did have some frustrations locating items due to being unfamiliar with the interface. But she was most appreciative of the dietary filters specifically dedicated to making allergies known in-app. For Menulog, user 2 had the same ease of use, and she enjoyed the transparency of the ordering process, with the visibility of the orange buttons that kept her in the know about the running total of her order. However, the differentiating factor for her was in making dietary requirements. A major frustration for her was having to undergo the entire process only to have to call the restaurant outside the app afterwards. So based on my observations, as well as the extended research, I had shaped my two personas around major demographics and motivations of delivery users. The first being Christine, a 22-year-old student who loves to try new foods and restaurants for lunch, but because of her relatively low income, she has to do so on a budget. Uber Eats may work for Christine in that they have elements that assist in the searching for a good deal. However, in terms of suitability, Menulog may be the preferred option, with its incorporation of visuals and diverse categories that would help streamline the process of finding new foods and cuisines, as well as being able to access restaurant reviews directly to help her make the right choices so she can put her money where it's worth when discovering new dishes. The second persona is David, a 43-year-old father of two whose main functions when it comes to eating out is trying to find places that will cater towards his children's dietary requirements. Manilog is great for its constant allergy reminders that it provides, especially given one of his children has a peanut allergy. However, having to call outside of the app isn't necessarily ideal. Uber Eats may be better suited in that he is able to directly search for allergy-friendly places using the filter and make ingredient adjustments in-app. Now looking into heuristics, in terms of visibility of status, both apps do a good job with their use of colors to show actionable and constraint in terms of visual feedback when interacting with elements to indicate progress, particularly those showing the basket total and amount left for free delivery. However, the exception of this was the lack of visual feedback in indicators and actionable delivery buttons in Menulog. Both apps provide constraints to prevent user errors and user misbehavior. Quick undo functions in Menulog assists with users in recovering from errors if they accidentally delete an item from their cart. In terms of mental modeling, for both apps, users had a good mental model, with the transfer of knowledge from real life using familiar terminology and sequences from online retail and breaking down the entirety of the process into small, goal-oriented tasks and comprehensible steps. However, the mental model was at times endangered when users encountered inconsistencies in design elements, as seen with delivery preferences in Menulog, in which disrupt the flow of the experience. As for design issues, a recurring issue identified by users was that there was no way to remove items during the checkout process in Uber Eats, and the only way to do so was to tap on an item to reveal a new page, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and to find the red text, in which visually lacked any presence and any defined call to action. A major design issue in Menulog is the menu itself. The low glanceability and the lack of visual content, as noted in the observations, was the main point of frustration for users. Reflecting upon the key successes and frustrations that came of the observational analysis of both apps, Uber Eats provided for a more user-friendly experience than Menulog.